and welcome back to Four Corners of the Galley. I'm your host PBO, and you're joining me on another edition of Unsolved, the murders of Biggie and Tupac. We're all the way up to the last episode, episode 10, titled Unsolved. First off, I'd like to just thank everybody out there for joining me on this great journey as we went through all 10 episodes of Unsolved. Thank you for all the comments, likes, subscribers, everything. Just the views. I really appreciate it. Please come back. I'm still doing Atlanta. 2 more episodes of that. I got Westworld. I'll be doing Power when Power starts back up, and a full recap on each season individually, and more fun stuff on the way. So I'd just like to say thank you to all y'all. Alright, well, let's kick this last episode off. So, Unsolved and all, has been a fun ride. I must say it started off with a good episode and had a lot of good stuff in that first episode, and the first 2 were amazing, and then we got a little speed bump in the third, and then it really made its way in 4, 5, 6, and 7, and this show really put a good effort for it. The last 2 have been kind of disappointing in the way of we want a lot more content, obviously, of Pac and of Biggie Smalls, Christopher, and then this one kind of ends with a thud. It's just more of the stuff. The best stuff that we get out of this, though, is we get basically contracting theories on who killed Biggie Smalls. Who killed Tupac, and we get an actual confession to the Biggie Smalls murder. Now, the beauty of all this is put out there, but like we find out going through this episode, in which we pretty much know, none of this is improvable in court at all. I mean, all this evidence is a lot of hearsay and actual people telling it, but connecting the dots and the people that are alive to this point and not alive just really don't help. So let's roll into this episode and just kind of go through the highlights, because this whole thing is basically the 2006 task force. We get no more flashbacks of Biggie and Pac, which I really was disappointed in. I mean, you could have gave us a little something, maybe showed us a great moment from the beginning of their relationship, something we didn't see. I mean, they could have saved a couple of pieces at the end just to give us a little fun. I mean, they waited all the way to the end to give us another same moment where they're shaking hands, and then they showed some great actual pictures of Pac and Biggie in the credits, but they really didn't give us anything which we came for. I mean, they really focused a lot on Kane and Poole, and I get it. These are the 2 gentlemen that pushed this case forward, but we also got to remember the reason that we're all interested in this is because of Biggie and Tupac. So it starts off actually with a cold opening, and it's a hit, and it's pretty crazy. So we're tracking this guy, and it's this individual gentleman, and he goes to a liquor store, and he's on his motorcycle, and we're tracking him to this stop sign. A car rolls up, and he feels kind of funny. He kind of looks like he's gonna reach for his gun, and the dude just kind of looks at his bike and says, "Nice bike," and then lets him go. He doesn't think nothing of it. Dude turns off, he drives up, another guy comes out of nowhere and hits him. I guess that was a signal, knocks him over, and it's a straight up hit, and they just roll out and just do this dude. So you have no idea when this is, who this guy is. All you know, it's LA. I mean, that's all you pretty much know, and you have no idea who even the guy in the helmet is. I mean, you have no idea. So they kind of open on this weird cold opening, and obviously they're trying to tie something back, but they also put this there because there's no other action in this thing, or no other, suspense. They try to build some suspense with some other things, but there's really not. If it wasn't for that first scene, it's basically people talking in spaces. I mean, this is the whole last episode. It's just a whole lot of talking and conjecture and hearsay about what's going on, and really nothing bigger. So we actually get to the 2006 task force, and they're preparing for their big Theresa meeting. The big Theresa meeting, which they've been setting up and they're waiting for. They're hoping they're going to get all their ducks in a row and get everything laid out, and they're going to do good with this. So they're all excited and stuff, and they're pumped up, and they're getting ready for this, and they're kind of nervous because she wants to come in early, so they're having conjecture about this. At the same time, Kane gets a call, and we finally get the big meetup between these 2 individuals. We get Kane and Poole meeting up. So Poole calls Kane and wants to meet with him. So Dupree and Kane go to meet Poole at this park, and they try to hype up the scene and do they did some cinematic stuff to try to make some of these scenes and some of the things that's going on try to be more interesting, but when you come down to it, it's really not that interesting. The last 3 episodes and the stuff they left us with, I felt like they really overused their wad in the middle, and Maybe that was by design. I don't know, but they use a lot of stuff that they could have maybe stretched out the last couple of episodes and given us a little more content that would have worked better. So I know they were trying to give probably the big send off to each individual. As Pac with his own episode and Christopher with his own episodes, but they only gave him 5 minutes each. So that's kind of weird too. So Poole comes in. He basically comes with this contradicting information on the Tupac killing, and he comes to them and says that Reggie, who was Suge's business partner, who was played by Gio on Hollywood Unlocked. Nice going, Gio. You look good out there. I like that. They're saying that this individual, Reggie, was the one that set up the hit on Suge, and it wasn't a hit on Pac, but it was actually a hit on Suge. So he says he's got a confession from one of the individuals in prison that was never put in the file that states this. So now they have this new information, and Poole's really crazy at this point. You can see he's kind of off his rocker, and the actor playing him is doing a great job of this. But yeah, they just basically come up with some new contradicting information about the Pac murder. They're telling them, nah, we got Keithy D telling us that it was him, and he even swore and said it. I mean, so he says that Keithy D's a patsy, and he might be. It might be a bigger play, but in reality, Keithy D's and Orlando Anderson are still the ones that set this whole thing up. So he comes with this new contradictory information. So now they want to start to look into the old partner, Reggie. And Dupree's like, look, he's been an open book. He's been with us this whole time. So they go and interview Reggie, and they start having a conversation with him. And he doesn't give up any information because he's not dumb, because Suge's still alive, and you're not trying to go against Suge. I mean, you better forget that. So he's not really giving him information, and they're just kind of reciting off names. And when they get to Poochie, one of the ex-members of Suge's crew and part of Death Row, he just kind of pauses and really doesn't say anything and says they always had a lot of secret conversations in private. So now they got a name that seems interesting to them that they might be a part of. So they get back and they take that, and then they find out that Suge, the rumor is that Suge bought Poochie's car and it was a black Impala. So now they're really excited because now they got another Impala, of course, but why would Suge buy one of his old guys' black Impala for no reason? And, they had some conjecture. So they're really, really trying to use this information in a way. So they come up with a plan when they want to meet with Theresa, and they fake an actual confession statement from Poochie saying that he was the one that killed Biggie, and they're trying to put it in front of Theresa and let her read it, and they're coming up with all these ideas by redacting stuff and being real copy right there, real FBI, and trying to convince Theresa that, Poochie confessed to him and that we don't need anything from you. We just need to hear it out of your words. They're trying to confess on a fake confession. I mean, it's real funky what they're trying to do, but it's slick police tricks. So it's 2009. They have the Theresa interview. They get her in there. She basically goes in there and stonewalls them. She's like, I'm not telling you guys nothing. I thought about it. I'm not telling you nothing. They're like, all right, we don't need to tell you. We don't need to tell me anything. We got a confession. They hand her this letter. She kind of reads through it, and flat out right there admits, yeah, that's the truth. If Poochie said it, that's the truth. And they're like blown away because they're trying to play the poker face before that. And if she just looks up once and looks at any of their faces, it would have gave it away right there because they had some real bad poker faces. They looked super nervous when she was looking at that paper. So they go, well, why don't you tell us in your own words? So she basically starts to tell them how this whole thing happened. So here is the confession to the Biggie murder. Basically, Suge is pissed and in jail after Tupac is killed from the whole deal that went down in Vegas. He's in jail because he was violated first parole for kicking Orlando Anderson. He's locked away. So she goes undercover as the lawyer's assistant and sees Suge. And basically, her and Suge have these conversations about money and getting Poochie to get on the Biggie thing and take him down for him so that he can even out the odds because he feels a bad boy or whatever at this point. So he sets up Poochie to do this. Theresa then admits that her and Poochie used to meet a bunch of different times in the diner to discuss money. She says she was also there the night that everything went down at the Peterson. So she might have been the lookout that everybody talks about, but you really never know. She doesn't admit to that. But basically, the events happen. She says she doesn't hear from Poochie for a while, and then out of nowhere, he's calling frantically, and he's asking for some more money to get out of town, and she goes back to Suge. Suge gives her the money, and he gets away. So they're all pumped because now they got a full confession. They can't believe it. They even give them a shot up top where they're feeling good. And like this whole season, that's what they do. They make them feel all good and their information is the greatest. And then either it falls apart or it doesn't work. And I mean, lo and behold, it's the same deal. So they're feeling great and they got this new information. So they want to go after Poochie now. And that's the murder we see at the beginning of the show. That is Poochie being murdered in 2003, I'm assuming by some other associates of Suge, so he can't rat him out at the end. So Poochie can't do nothing now because that is already out of play. But it doesn't matter because Kane and them are happy because they have all this confession. So the next time we see Kane and he's all suited up and he goes to meet with the brass again. And he sits down with the brass and tells them that he has figured out the whole thing and has it all. And basically the brass's only question that mattered to them was police involved? And based on this scenario that Theresa explains, this had nothing to do with the police. So they get these big smiles on their faces because they instantly are free now, and there's nothing that Valletta Wallace can prove in court that the LAPD was involved, especially if their task force has figured out this new information. So they're pumped, they're excited. They tell Kane, great job, and he leaves, and he's in a great job, and he thinks everything's going good, and and everything is good, right? So the LAPD is clear. So Kane and Dupree go back and go see Keithy D, and Keithy D is working, and they just kind of like have an extra Keithy D moment just to talk to him and tell him how the stuff went down and discussing different things and how things are going to happen and make sure that you're, just kind of having a conversation, which doesn't end up going anywhere because the next time we meet up with Kane's getting pulled into his superior's office and is being pulled off the case, a la Russell Poole at the end. So Kane's getting pulled off the case because of his involvement in the Torres case, and I guess word got out or whatever, something got out that he was supposedly bribing or offering money to the witnesses when he wasn't, and then they come to find out that he pulled this little trickery with the fake confession to get Theresa to tell them the thing. It's all not going to hold up in court, and no one's going to have anything of this go any farther. So they felt like to protect him, this is just a way to get the guy that's doing the best job off the case, because once they realize that they are not going to be liable anymore, why run this $1 million task force or however much it costs with all these different divisions if you're not in trouble for anything? They were only trying to protect their butts. They weren't really trying to solve the case. They were more or less trying to make sure the LAPD didn't have anything involved with the Biggie murder, because if it did, that would have been just disastrous. So that's all that really mattered to them. And they made sure they took care of the two big dogs at the top. So Kane gets kind of pushed to the side gradually because, they easily can bring up the Torres nonsense. And then you get Dupree, and he's at robbery and homicide, and he gets promoted to detective. So I like that he got promoted to detective, and he got a little bit out of it. But, they gave him this whole, oh, don't worry, we'll keep the task force going. They weren't. So that really stinks. So we jump all the way now to 2010, and we got Miss Valletta Wallace, lawyer, doing a huge press conference basically saying that she's dropping charges because the LAPD has assured them that they have new evidence and new leads and things are going to progress, and they'll have information and they'll tell her who was responsible for her son's death. And it's just even more things for them to let this case go away. The minute I saw that, I knew, that task force was completely dismantled, because if she's dropping the lawsuit, there's 0 point of having this thing at all. So we see that. And then the next thing is sometime later, and it's at the bar, and Dupree now shows up in a suit, and Kane is, they're just having one of these guy moments. It's just more about them and the whole after effects. It's not really giving us that much Biggie and Pac stuff at this point, just kind of telling us how it all winds down. So Dupree's doing good as a detective, and Kane's saying he's redating his wife, but he's going to retire, and he's getting out of the thing, and then, and then he tells him the task force is closed, and he goes, I know, and it's all open. They shut it all down because they needed to, so they just cared about the cops being involved. So the next thing you do is you get this thing of this place in Pennsylvania. It's Strasburg, Pennsylvania. It's out way in the country. And we get one last great scene by Valletta Wallace. And I must say, the actress Aisha Hides, wow, what a phenomenal job you've done with Miss Valletta Wallace's whole season. But this last scene was so powerful when she's reiterating her point to Kane and explaining her pain and what she's gone through and how much turmoil and how she thought she was going to get some insight, for him to come to her and basically tell her nothing is going to be done. I mean, she's like, what about Pac? What about Biggie? These young men and what they... I mean, she's just pissed and tells him to leave, and I'm 100% with her. It's like, get the heck out of here. You come all the way out here to tell me nothing. That basically nothing good is going to come out of that. Just a great performance by Aisha Hides. I thought that was a phenomenal performance in her last scene as Miss Valletta Wallace. Great job. I did like that part at the end. And then it kind of gives us like this really sad thing. So we kind of move forward. It's 2015 now, August 19, 2015. And Poole is still around, and he's meeting with some sheriffs. And he's just disheveled. He's super disheveled, and he's not doing good. And you can see it. This case is worn on him, and he's still fighting for this case. He's still pushing, and he's trying to get the sheriff to do something. And it's just a bad current events where he has a heart attack right there and ends up dying, which truly sucks because this man was fighting from the start and was trying to solve this case and bring justice to this murder, and was even trying to make sure that Pac's death got justice. And in the end, the case got the better of him, and it drove him mad and made him lose his job. And he did have his family, but it took a toll on him, and in the end, it ultimately hurt him. I mean, that's what they're trying to show. But I mean, you also got to remember two amazing young talented black men were killed and murdered in their youth, and these men did nothing to help to resolve it. So in the end, I must say it's almost bittersweet. So yeah, that's kind of how it ends. It gives us an update on where Keithy D is and how he's still out and around, and how Suge is in prison for that crazy nonsense on the set of Straight Outta Compton. And and there's just things going on, and Russell Poole passed away, and Kane's still around, and Dupree's still a detective, and it was kind of bittersweet, this ending too. It was kind of bittersweet. It's like you went on this great journey and you learned this great information and the discovery of Pac and Biggie and the things that revolved around them, and how this tumultuous time when they were both murdered. I mean, it's just crazy. And you get to the end and you don't get an answer. You get an answer, but you don't get an answer that justifies the masses or is held up in court or people can cheer upon. You get to maybe know it in your own head and feel good about it, but in overall, it doesn't really help. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this whole run and ride down the memory lane. Until next time, guys. Good night, Ted.